Hey everybody, welcome back. Another episode. How are you today, Dakota?
Doing great, Taylor. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well. Back at it. Hip Hop Evolution, Season 2, Episode 4. It feels good to be back in the studio, man.
Yeah. It's been a minute, hasn't it? We took a little break in between episode 3, Do the Knowledge, and this episode 4, New York State of Mind. And yeah, not for any reason, just life and summertime and all that stuff. But no, it's good to be back at it, man. It's good to be back on the mic with you and sharing this thing.
Yeah, for sure. Feelings mutual, man. Sometimes life gets in the way of of the passion here, but I'm so glad that we can get back at this. And what a great episode to get back to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
New York State of Mind, the birthplace of hip hop, and yeah, they're the New York artists are trying to get back on the map after the West Coast kind of did their thing.
Yeah, and yeah, what a great episode to get into, because like you just said, the birthplace of hip hop. So bringing it back to the birth spot, and this era that's that this episode was over. We've talked about the second coming of hip hop in episode 2 of this season. That was Do the Knowledge, and and I think this falls right into that second coming of hip hop. This whole era. Um, what did we start out with? The main convention, the Roosevelt. Like that's the spot where all the DJs were going. Everybody's going there to do their digging, pick out these obscure records to get an obscure sample to put on their stuff, and that's really what, you know, the essence of hip hop is all about, is digging through those records, and it's I've heard this quote before, and I'll screw it up a little bit here for you, uh, but and I believe this was oh, what was it? I think this was a quote from one of the boys from De La Soul, and he said that sampling and digging is more about your roots and what you were raised on. So that's like, you know, you're bringing literally your own history to the table with hip hop when you're doing things like this, sampling these old obscure records that nobody's heard about, or even ones that people have heard of, but you're using it in a different way that has never been used before. You know, it's really personalized, even though it is using other samples from other artists, really bringing your style through, which is a cool thing.
No, for sure, man. And it depending on who you are and your background and upbringing, what kind of music you listen to, yeah, you're gonna pull out a lot of stuff that is gonna mean something to you and is gonna bring out kind of your own style, your own feelings on it, right? And that whole term digging in the crates, like this is literally the definition of that, right? Um, you know, we've recently joined the 5 a.m. club, and you know, Q-Tip was getting up at 5 a.m. to go to the Roosevelt Hotel to dig in the crates, right? Because if you know get up at 8 or 9, it's already too late. All the good stuff's gone.
That's right. Kid Capri took it to the next level. He just stayed at the Roosevelt the night before, right? He walks down in his robe, you know. He's got got his shower sandals on.
Yeah, that is next level. That's genius, bro.
It really is a good move on his behalf, you know, for something that was so meaningful to so many people, because like it was so competitive. Who do you got there? Like,
Yeah.
like just to name the few artists that I saw on this episode. That's not to say that there wasn't more on this episode, but it was just there were so many. It was hard to take down all of their names on notes. But I've got Kid Capri, Large Professor, Evil D, Q-Tip, Pete Rock, Lord Finesse, Primo. Like the list goes on and on. There were so many of these guys at this time, and DJs at this time, all fighting over this stuff and like peeking over each other's shoulders, trying to see what Q-Tip's getting, trying to get what Large Professor's getting. Like, I think Q-Tip was saying that Pete Rock would always, start telling people that he's taking samples of things that were just garbage.
And I think even Busta Rhymes made a joke that like this was the X-Men and the Avengers, right? Like the names you just listed are top best of the best, all coming together in one place, right?
Absolutely. And they're all friends. Like, that's insane, man. That if that doesn't tell you something about the roots of hip hop, like the fact that like you and I know what it's like to be meeting with a group of like-minded people and how that can project your productivity to that next level. Well, look at this, right? Like, look at these guys, and they were all in the same class, you know what I mean? Figuratively in the same class, and it just goes to show that that's where that competitive nature brings out, just that highest level of your art.
For sure, man. And this was New York '90s, and to me, it kind of went from the birth of hip hop, where it was DJ spinning, then it went to the artists, and now it's kind of coming back to DJ / producers, upping the game again, right? It's just funny how that kind of flows and goes, and that's what you need. And I think the big thing they were talking about on this episode too is that SP1200, that sampler, right? DJ Premier was saying that it kind of brought the best out of you because everyone kind of has the same thing, but how do I tweak it, or how do I put my style on it, kind of something you were saying earlier too, and make it unique and my own and special, right?
Yeah. And that piece of equipment, man, oh my gosh. Like in this episode you watched Large Professor make a beat in less than a minute, like just by pulling this drum line, pulling that set of horns, this set of keys, and just dropping it together. Like, oh my god. And it sounds so, and that's the big thing about the SP1200 too, is that sound was rugged and raw, like exactly what hip hop should be, right?
Yeah, man, absolutely. Like the gritty, the grimy, the roots, right?
Yeah. And Large Professor there, he had his hands in a few different pots here. Like he was showing Q-Tip how to run this thing. Like Q-Tip didn't know how to run this thing beforehand. Like he had his hands in a few different pots there. Large Professor is the one that brought out Nas at that what was that, Live at the Barbecue?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, and that one verse that just took the whole hip hop nation by storm, right?
That's right, and Nas was 16 at the time, right?
That's insane,
it's
man.
just crazy. Like I think about how talented someone has to be with some of those rhymes, and he's talking about grown person stuff at the age of 16.
And that was the big catch, was some of the stuff that he was saying, even for a artist that's been in the game for a long time. It was unexpected. It wasn't your typical lyrics that you expect to hear, and that's what set him really aside from everybody else. Is he's saying things like he got he got detention for snuffing God, and in school. Like,
Yeah.
what, man? Like, how old is this guy? Yeah, man.
Yeah, that's that's next level. And it all kind of comes together where, Nas's album Illmatic, he brought the X-Men and Avengers together, and I don't know if I've seen this again where you have different producers, side by side on one album.
On the first album.
That's right. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's totally unheard of. And I think that's the thing that I like the most about this episode is we've got a few things that were unheard of on this episode. So Nas coming out with that team of producers, unheard of. Like how did you get Large Professor, Q-Tip, Primo, he had
Pete Rock was on there as well. Yeah.
Yeah, like how did you get these guys to agree to work together, let alone all of them working with you, an artist that came from nothing? Well, and I think the answer to that is Large Professor, right? I think that he was the man behind the scene, and like we said, all these guys, all these producers, DJs, they were all friends. So that scene, there was so much going on behind it than we even know, right? But the other,
No, for sure.
The other unheard of thing out of this episode, the Wu-Tang.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
There will never be another group in history that will do what they did.
No.
What they did with getting signed. Oh shoot.
9 members, dude.
Yeah, 9 members. And then go out and get individual record deals, each one of them. Like,
yeah.
How do you sign a group and then go get an individual record deal? Well, I'll tell you won't now.
No.
Because nobody's willing to give up that cash cow. And
no.
They just, they were writing their own path. They, R.E.A., genius. The guy had foreshadowing that nobody else did. Like, who's going to put together a song with no hook and put that out as the first single,
Yeah.
But he
off
did it.
Key and yeah.
And he brought that group of people together, these 9 MCs, and told them all, give me X amount of years of your time and I will make this happen. Like, he had that vision, and all of those guys, their options were very little. They were all extremely talented, but like even Method Man had blown a record deal before this, and there was a whole bunch of these guys that had tried. Raekwon the Chef, like he had tried to get a record deal before this, and nobody would sign him either, And ODB, like just a crazy man, So no, a lot of these guys tried and couldn't bring it together. But even R.E.A., he came out before as R.E.A.M the Prince and didn't make it. So these guys all had their try at the record game, and then this man came up with this vision that brought it all together, and you just won't hear of that again in hip hop. It's they paved the way for themselves, but also the record labels and everything saw what happened, and they're like, no way, this will never happen again.
No, for sure, man. And that whole they call it the boom bap era, right? And I think they called it that because of the the sound from the SP1200, but I think it's an era that is really underappreciated, especially even in hip hop, where not only was the sound cool and heavy, but it's like you were saying, a lot of firsts, and a lot of things you look back on, you just say that will never ever happen again, and that was crazy. Like I even think, and just to go back to Nas just quickly, because I love the Wu, and I think we could do our own like a full episode on just the Wu-Tang Clan, man. That's how that's how much we love them. But like I just think about Nas's album where, when those producers, he picked them. At I guess he was 17 when he was doing it. At 17, he picked who's working with them, and they all were like, yeah, 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 sure, sure, sure. And that album, Illmatic, some people have called it Shakespeare in Queensbridge, right? Just a peek out the window of what his everyday life is like, and you wonder why he's talking like a grown man at 16, 17. It's because he's seeing things that a lot of people will never see in their lifetime. One day of in his shoes is like, wow, this man's been through a lot, right? So
Yeah, it was the perfect hip hop album, and that's
yeah,
been said a lot, right?
yeah. And I think even Q-Tip at one point said, Nas was real hip hop. You think about what hip hop is, Nas was that. And what a statement from Q-Tip, right? And a masterpiece he used, right?
Yeah, yeah. No, that's big time, man.
No, not
That's
at
no
all.
little shout out.
And maybe we can slide back to the Wu-Tang Clan. When we met Shad in person there, we asked him, what was your what was your favorite interview? Who was the
Yes.
coolest? Like, who is the interview you would want to talk about or do again? And he's like, no doubt, Method Man. He's like, hands down, Method Man.
Yes.
And I remember looking at you and you're like, yeah, of
Yeah.
course. Like
Well,
you weren't surprised in the least bit, man.
no doubt, no doubt, man. How wicked would it be to sit down with Meth on the couch and just hear him talk about how how the Wu came together? Like, wow, that's incredible, man. You know, like put that on my bucket list because
For
I
sure.
need to talk
And
to
I
this
just think
man.
about that, like learning from Shad, just that quick chat we had with him, and Method Man talking about give me X amount of time and getting $100 to put it up and getting out of the street gang, and just words of wisdom from him, and just words of wisdom from Shad too of you know always say yes when someone asks you, like with the whole hip hop evolution idea. Someone came to them and just said, would you be willing to do this? And his answer was, I don't even know what's really happening, but yes. And it turned out to be a huge thing, right? So yeah, it's a lot of fun, man.
Absolutely, yeah, man. No, and that's another. We talked about this off air, but yeah, man, we're gonna have to put together a little bit of an after show sort of thing for the shows that we go and see, so that we can break those down. Like because yeah, that Shad show that we saw a few months back there, that was really good, man. I cannot say enough
Mm-hmm.
good things about it. Like I knew Shad from this Hip Hop Evolution and from his brief time as the host on Q on CBC, and I was a fan already, but really I never did a deep dive into his music until leading up to that show, and then that show that he put on, and I'm blown away, man. I don't know how this guy isn't a bigger artist, but yeah. Anyways, that's a talk for another time. Like I said, we're gonna have to put together you know, after the show or after show talk.
For sure, man. Because yeah, I went to one, and I'd love to chat about that too. Just the experiences and feelings. But yeah, man, it's maybe we allocate some time for that as well in the
Absolutely.
future. Yeah, Staten Island, from Staten Island to Brooklyn, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Is Notorious B.I.G. the answer to the West Coast?
Yeah. Yeah. And he really was, wasn't he?
Yeah,
Man, that flow, that flow was unstoppable.
yeah,
Like you see some of his old videos, like before he got the record deal, and he was just he was unstoppable, man. Like the guy's going on for a solid 10 minutes, just rhyming word after word, like and so specifically in the crowds to the people that he's like. He was the definition of a rap battle MC.
Yeah.
Like 100%. And actually, I think they made mention of that. The evolution from him from a rap battle MC to, you know, adding the hook and putting that into his songs, and then into his commercial take uh with Puffy, you know, like getting into the commercial rap, and he just did it so seamlessly. Like he navigated that from the streets to, well, let's call it from the streets to the sheets, man. Like the guy did it all. Like he had something for the guys, he had something for the ladies, and not and nobody had that both. Nobody had something for the guys and something for the ladies. You were big in the streets, or you know, you were an R&B artist, and nobody had heard about you in the streets. Biggie was both.
Yeah. And it's one of those both, like that freestyle to commercial where he still had the respect.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where you see a lot of people go freestyle or rap battle or whatever it is, and you go commercial, and it's like, that man's sold out. You know what I mean? That guy's, you know. But
right.
He's one of the rare, if I can't think of too many, dude, where they went commercial and still had the respect from the streets, still had respect from the ladies, still had respect from, you know, just your average viewer, listener. Yeah, it was crazy. And like early days, his comparisons to Big Daddy Kane, that's not a small thing. You know, and people saying, well, he's Big Daddy Kane, but better. And it's just like, wow.
That's a big statement, man. Ain't no half stepping in that statement.
That's right. It's a Big Daddy thing for sure. No, so I mean, I just think his trajectory was amazing, and it feels like everybody who gets big or things like this has a story to tell, whether it's, you know, he was doing the street thing and he's making a decision, should I do rap, should I, you know, or should I get back to the streets, and in the morning, or I guess it was the night rather, he tells his boys, all right guys, I'm out, I'm gonna do hip-hop, I'm done with this street thing, I'm out. And that morning that place is raided by cops, you know what I mean?
Unreal. Yeah.
So, you know, call it 12 hours, probably less than that, of a decision where he took a right instead of taking the left, and, you know, he's not in jail, and instead he's, you know, on the front pages of magazines, right?
Yeah. Yeah, man. It's crazy. Those little moments, you know, where that one little decision is so big that it really takes your life in one direction or another. So, no,
Yeah, because he changed a lot of things, man. Like we've been talking about first, changed a lot of things, and he now made it again in the '90s boom bap era, where you have some hard brothers, hard raps, hard lines, and still can hit the masses, and bring it back to, you know, from the West, bring it back to the East, and say, okay, you know, we're back in New York again.
And to a point that you made earlier, did it all with respect to the game still, which is a huge deal. So yeah, no, you know, like it's been said many times, but like, yeah, we're talking about one of the greatest.
Yeah, and and this whole episode, you could say, like, we talked about three of, you know, the greats. Nas, who's still doing his thing, which I think is so cool that you know, we're talking him 16, 17, and now we're talking in 2022, and Nas is still around, you know what I mean? And you have Wu-Tang, and sadly some people have passed, but you still have a lot of the members still doing their thing as well, right? So, and then yeah, we all know Biggie's story, sadly, but yeah, there's a lot of firsts and a lot of big names in this episode here.
And to that point, like, we're talking about 30 plus years ago that this stuff came
Wow.
out. So like
Wow.
that's a big, that is a long duration in hip hop.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's still living today, right? Like still with us.
and that's it. Like it's not a strange thing to hear some of this music still being played. Like, and it's 30 years old. Like that's just it's wild to me to think of.
Yeah.
Especially when you
Yeah.
get into the mumble rap and crap of today. But again,
Yeah.
topic for another time.
Yeah. That's right. I don't think mumble rap will last past 2 years, 3 years, right? But this stuff you could throw on Wu, Nas, Biggie, anything, and still be like, yeah, this is, the feeling that you had the first time you listened to it, right? No, so good, so good. I know I might put you on the spot here, but usually we end every episode with a song that we recommend people listening to.
Yeah.
Do you still want to do that?
Yeah.
You still want to throw something out?
Let's do that. I actually I didn't have that in my head going into this, but I'm sure I can come up with something here. I'm just gonna do a quick search while you give me your pick, if that's okay.
Yeah, for sure. And I think I'll go Wu-Tang Clan, man. I might have just stolen yours, but I'll go
That's
Wu-Tang
okay.
Clan. And I'm trying to think, is it Cream or Protect Your Neck? And Protect Your Neck has a Spider-Man lyric in it, so I'm loving that. But I think I'll go with Cream, just because that's the big one. That's the one where RZA, it's at times off key, no chorus, no hook. It's just gritty, dirty, and I love RZA's sound, man.
Yeah.
I think it was Raekwon, one of the members of the group, saying that, RZA had a certain slow, gritty, dirty sound, and all the members understood that and respected that and were able to not necessarily adapt, but understand that my flow is going to have to match this, and it definitely did. So I'm going to go with Cream, Wu-Tang Clan. Yeah, everyone give a listen, and just listen to the beat and just the sound, man. So
Yeah. No,
How about-
I love that, and you did steal my band, but that's okay.
Well, to be fair, man, this is kind of like when I think about boom bap, I think about you, because this is kind of your thing, right? Like
I love it.
yeah, yeah, this is you. So, yeah, take it away, my man.
Yeah, so I'm gonna throw it to New York State of Mind, and
Oh wow, yeah.
And I just want you to listen to that beginning, ding, 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 and not get some type of a feeling, like, yeah, no, that is rap, man. That is pure rap. I love these two choices. So yeah, Nas, New York State of Mind, Wu-Tang Clan, Cream, Cash rules everything around me.
I love it, dude. And that New York, like in the show, they show DJ Premier's like reenactment of when they first heard that ding, 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 and then the piano coming. It was just like, whoa. Like I think everyone's face and feelings are gonna be like that, man. It is a banger for sure. So good choice, great choice, dude.
Love it. I glanced at my notes too here. And this episode is called New York State of Mind, so maybe there was some subliminal messaging coming to me on this one. My bad.
No, don't take anything away, man. It's still an amazing choice, and I'm sure everybody listening will appreciate it. So, no, that's great, man.
Yeah, no, I'm excited for this, buddy. Definitely gonna go give those a listen to right after we're done this.
Perfect. I love it. So yeah, so we'll wrap things up here, and then we'll come back at everyone with season 3, episode 1 at a later date. And I believe in the meantime, we're gonna do a few interviews as well. Maybe before, maybe after, but we'll do a few interviews with some local talent as well. And I hope everyone, can tune in and give some love to them, because it's it's hard to get started, and I love listening to local talent, dude.
Yeah, hearing something that I haven't heard before is always a great experience, man. So I'm excited for this.
I am too, and this is just the beginning, and I can't wait to see where we go from here. It should be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Now, before I let you tie this up, Taylor.
Yep. Talk to me.
I gotta add one more song, just because I feel like now that I looked at this title, I can't just do the easy pick. I want to go. I want to go Memory Lane, Sittin' in the Park by Nas. So we can add that and make it 3 though if you're into it.
I'm very comfortable with that. Yeah, that's I'm off the top of my head. I don't know if I know that song.
Oh, it's good.
Was that a part of the Illmatic album or?
Yes.
Okay, so I definitely have listened to it then, because I know I've listened to that whole album, but that's not ringing a bell. I'm excited to listen to that. Maybe just give the album a listen. Maybe that's what I'm gonna do actually.
Right?
Call it what it is.
You won't
yeah.
be disappointed.
No, perfect. You've given me something to chew on here, and I'm gonna take a big bite. So awesome, dude.
Awesome. All
All right,
dude.
perfect.
Yeah. No, again, it's good to be back at this and sharing this thing with you, buddy.
Yeah, no, me too, and it's a lot of fun. So until the next one, love it, and everyone have a good one.
Yeah. Signing off.